Bonjour tout le monde. Cette fois-ci, nous sommes à Sainte-Agathe-du-Mont, à la maison, la montagne de l'Oreb. Il s'agit d'une rencontre de jeunes frères dominicains de 60 ans et moi pour réfléchir sur l'avenir de notre province. As I said, this meeting is a gathering for us to reflect together on the future of our province. So I'm going to give you some glimpse on what we have been discussing. Follow me. Hi everybody, I am here today with my dear brothers from the western side of Canada. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves.
So my name is Father David Belushi. I'm at the Vancouver Priory, the Priory of St. Mary, and I am the promoter for vocations for Western Canada. That's Vancouver and the Western region, covering British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And I also teach philosophy and theology at the Catholic Pacific College in the Fraser Valley in Langley.
And hello, I'm Father Mark Hu. I'm also Dominican based in Vancouver, Western Canada. And my service is basically revolving around St. Mary's Parish, where I'm one of the pastor, well, I'm an assistant pastor, but one of 4 Dominican friars in service there on a full-time basis, and hopefully also introducing a Dominican face to the parish life itself.
So the next question is for both of you. Yesterday we had some interesting discussions. Could you guys share with us some of what we have been discussing yesterday?
All right. So what I had brought to the discussion was a recent meeting at Oxford where the different provinces, English-speaking provinces, met to look at vocations, formation in general, and what was common among the different English-speaking provinces is the profile of the candidates, and I brought this to the table yesterday, to the discussions, and that the profile is generally a conservative profile, looking at a traditional, or what they call a classical, religious life, religious formation, very orthodox young men wanting to really live out faithfully their religious vocation in the Dominican charism.
And one of the highlights that I brought back from this discussion was with regards to the concerns, I think, raised by some of us friars as to how we are able to realize our respective charisms in light of our particular personalities. And I came out of that discussion very hopeful, because I find that Dominican formation is perfect for precisely a question like this, because of the type of formation that's provided in terms of our form of studies that allows us to reflect on questions that come at us in life from a philosophical as well as a theological perspective. And these perspectives bring a lot of points for reflection that allows individuals from within each of their own particular personalities to draw from these points as to how to realize their charism in the field in order to share the gospel, the good news of our Lord Jesus Christ, and therefore to be coherent with truth, the pursuit of truth itself, and a relationship with Christ, whilst also drawing from these resources, while also at the same time being in conformity with our particular personalities.
Father David, as a promoter of vocations, what advice would you offer to a young man discerning a call to the Dominican life in Canada?
Okay, well, my first advice is to the promoter of vocations. And my advice to the promoter is to listen to the candidates. In listening to the candidates, what I have discovered, and this is what I would then share with the candidates, is this desire to grow in sanctity. All right, so they want to grow in sanctity. They have models for this. So they look at the Dominican saints, their desire for the truth. So there's this desire to bring the gospel to others in the apostolate, for example. There's this desire for community, and this we also have in our community life, which is why they're looking at the Dominican order, where we live together. So the life of prayer and the rosary in particular, many will be drawn to the Dominicans because of St. Dominic and the association with the rosary. So this is going to be part of the prayer life, the spiritual life. They look at the Dominican saints whom we have, St. Catherine of Siena, St. Dominic, and of course, many who are studying come across St. Thomas Aquinas, and this is certainly a major figure in the church, not only in the Dominican order, who's part of our intellectual tradition. So they can look at these saints, they can look at these different pillars of our own life, the apostolate, the community, the life of prayer, and of course the study. St. Thomas Aquinas, of course, leads towards the whole academic life, the intellectual life. So by looking at the saints, looking at our lives, how we live our life, these four pillars that are fundamental, and this gives them in return the possibility to bring the gospel to others. It's very clear that the young adults of today, they see that our society is somewhat broken, confused, wounded in many ways. They want to bring the truth of the gospel to others as they have experienced the love of Christ themselves, the gospel themselves. They want others to deepen their relationship with the Virgin Mary through prayer, through the rosary. So this gives them this opportunity to share with others, to share within a community, an apostolate. And the Dominican order offers these four different dimensions that would fulfill them, and does fulfill them, does certainly fulfill me and the other Dominicans whom I share my life with.
This question is for Brother Mark. Yesterday you said, and I quote, "We need to think about vocation within the framework of traditional Dominican formation in terms of structure, academics, and so on." What does it mean? Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, I hope I'm not being redundant in re-emphasizing what I said initially, in the sense that I do believe, and I'm glad that Father David, Brother David, fleshed this out also, is that within the context of our prayer life as Dominicans, how we're formed in our prayer life and in our life of study, there is this notion that allows us to draw from these riches in light of our respective personalities, that allows us to realize our personal charisms, or what we're drawn towards, what gives us life in preaching the gospel, what makes us tick, so to speak, when we preach the gospel. And obviously, in light of our personalities, we do so in various forms of ways. But what we do when we do this is that we do this in light of the formation that we were formed within. And it's this rich formation of prayer life and the life of studies that allows us to reflect on these aspects, and then with these aspects draw towards truth itself, or be drawn towards truth itself, that is Christ, and it is Christ that we are thereby wanting to share in our respective circumstances and in our respective personalities to those we minister to within our respective ministries. So I hope that answers the question. That's certainly what I would like to emphasize.
It does. The next question: what is it like being a Dominican in Western Canada?
I find it's been very fulfilling, obviously, because there is that life of prayer that we have, that is a common life that is visible, and that gives me the daily, in a sense, structure of going through my daily life with something that is stable. we have our daily prayer life that begins the morning, obviously with Lauds, and then with Mass and with Vespers, and the common life of having a meal together. And then on festivities, we come together for meals, and we also have community evenings where we come together for a movie and we share with each other. So that gives a lot of the foundational basis to want to live my life as a religious and as a Dominican specifically. And this in turn is expressed through my ministry to the people that I serve, like I said, mainly at St. Mary's, through the various ministries. And what I get to do is that, because the ministries are varied, is that I get to serve them, share the gospel in a variety of ways, be it through RCIA, for example, I give talks in RCIA, or through the gospel, through homilies, through counseling, through confessions. Those elements of my Dominican training and Dominican life come forward in sharing the fruits of my contemplation, but when hearing their pains, their struggles, also trying to integrate as to where they're coming from and wanting to serve in light of my Dominican training information, gives me a lot of satisfaction. So I come back at the end of the day feeling very fulfilled. I have the community life as a basis, and at the same time, when going forward in service, I find that by being able to be where they are in their pain or in their struggle, in their joys, their hopes, and to share in light of a Dominican basis, my desire to share the gospel to them, to give them a sense of something to go forward with in life. This allows me to come back feeling very fulfilled. So that's how I find Dominican life has been in the western part of Canada, that's Vancouver. And furthermore, there are all these other elements that are coming forward, like the opening of the novitiate in the upcoming few months. That again is a sense of hope, and all the many vocations that our brother David is introducing to us here in the province of Canada, but also in Vancouver, again gives me a lot of sense of hope. And so I find my life in Vancouver to be very satisfying and fulfilling.
Just following up that line of thought, I would like to ask Brother Dave, this new beginning with a novitiate in the western side of Canada, what does it mean for you as a promoter of vocations?
Okay, well, it means as a promoter of vocations, I can talk to these young men who are inquiring about Dominican life. I can let them know that we have a novitiate in Western Canada. The novitiate is in English, and they're quite excited about that. And related to the novitiate, since we're starting, as Father Mike just mentioned, we're starting this August, God willing, August 28th, Feast of St. Augustine. It means that we're pioneers. In Western Canada, the Dominicans are really pioneers. We are going into now dioceses such as Calgary, that I visited in January, Saskatoon, where I was in October, and anticipating to return to these cities, as well as adding the Diocese of Winnipeg in the autumn. So in many respects, the young men I meet there, they're excited to hear that the Dominicans are in Vancouver. We have a novitiate in Vancouver. They can see this vision of having Dominicans evangelize Western Canada. We need Dominican preachers in the West. And so it's an exciting future with pioneers, really, with our community in Vancouver, and then moving westwards into the other provinces, or actually eastward as we go from British Columbia to Manitoba. It's quite exciting knowing that these young men, can be part of this future, part of this vision. It's very exciting, actually, for them when they hear about it. When they know that we're just starting the novitiate, they realize that they can be part of this mission, part of this project. And at the end, it's quite exciting because we build on centuries of tradition. I mean, we go back to the 13th century, so we can build on this, and they're excited to be part of that. And that excites me in return.
Thank you very much. That's a wrap. So we'll see you soon.